And so the more he felt that they were asking him to transfer this technology, the more uncomfortable he got. And he said, Mom, if I did this, it would be treasonous. It would be illegal. So he ended up quitting his job. He gave him a 60-day notice, and he quit, and he said, I'm going to find a new job in the United States. Well, during those 60 days, he'd call every week and he'd say, Mom, I think my life is being threatened if I don't stay. And he said, if I don't call you every single week, call the American embassy. Something's happened to me. He goes, and he was scared.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so naive. I'm like, oh, Shane, you're coming home. You're fine. Don't be so dramatic. Nobody's going to kill you. I just didn't believe it.
Welcome, fellow liberators and patriots alike. This is Liberty Report. I'm your host, Bert Rapport. Final day. We're still on our final day of Clay Clark's Reawaken America tour, and it's far from over. Now, we have a lovely, lovely guest. We have Mary Todd. Are you running for Senate?
I'm running for U.S. Congress.
For U.S. Congress? And what state are you out of?
Montana. And I'm running in the 2nd district.
Okay, the 2nd district. Now, that's a beautiful thing. We need God-fearing patriots in office. Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do. He is my Lord and Savior.
Oh, man. And you believe in the Constitution?
100%. In fact, on my card, I did not put Republican. I put conservative.
Wow,
because I believe in the Constitution and I believe in the Bible.
Man, well, amen. You know, that's what our channel is based off of. You know, if it lines up with the Bible, the book, then we're about it. We'll report it. If it lines up with the Constitution, we're about it. If it goes against any of those in any way, then we disregard it. We don't report it. So now I hear you have an interesting story.
Yes.
What is this story? I'm very excited to hear about it.
Okay. Well, the reason that I've come to this point of running for U.S. Congress is in 2012, we got a phone call that changed our life forever. And to give you a little background, my oldest son, Shane Truman Todd, was a PhD in electrical engineering.
Okay.
He was working for a firm in Singapore, an IME, and he was working on very high technology, advanced technology, called GAN. And at one point he called, we talked all the time. I homeschooled my kids. I have 4 boys, so I homeschooled all of them, very close family. Awesome. But we talked every week, and at one point he said to me, Mom, I think I'm being asked to compromise U.S. security with the Chinese Communist Party. And I said, why? And he told me about this technology he was working on that would have been illegal to transfer to China. Wow. And he was the only one, because he was the only American that could work on this technology. He'd been trained. He was building a huge room to develop it. And it's called GAN technology. It's the next level of silicon.
How do you spell it? GAN.
G-A-N.
Okay.
So capital G, a small a, and capital N. And so the more he felt that they were asking him to transfer this technology, the more uncomfortable he got. And he said, Mom, if I did this, it would be treasonous. Wow. It would be illegal. So he ended up quitting his job. He gave him a 60-day notice, and he quit. And he said, I'm going to find a new job in the United States. Well, during those 60 days, he'd call every week and he'd say, Mom, I think my life is being threatened if I don't stay. And he said, if I don't call you every single week, call the American embassy. Something's happened to me. He goes, and he was scared.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so naive. I'm like, oh, Shane, you're coming home. You're fine. Don't be so dramatic. Nobody's going to kill you. I just didn't believe it. So on his last day of work, he had his ticket to come home. He had his bags packed. He had a job waiting for him in the United States, and he was garroted and hung on a door. So garroted means choked with a wire, and they hung him on his bathroom door. And we got a phone call telling us that our son had committed suicide.
Oh my gosh.
So My husband flew for American, my son flew for Delta, my other second born son, and so we flew to Singapore immediately to find out what happened. And we met with the police officer in Singapore, and they handed us typed suicide notes that they said they got from my son's computers. They confiscated his computers, they wouldn't give it to us, his cell phone, and his diary from work. So they had all of that. So we couldn't see his computers or anything, but they handed us these handwritten, these not handwritten, but these typed notes. And the minute I read the first paragraph, I knew that my son did not write these notes. It didn't even remotely reflect the way he wrote. I homeschooled him, so I know how he writes. And they had an Asian tone to it. Later on, we had two linguistic experts substantiate what I already knew, that it was impossible mathematically that my son wrote the suicide notes. And not only that, they said an American couldn't have written the suicide notes. So they were written from an Asian tone. So that was our first clue that our son had been murdered. But then we saw his body, the defensive wounds all over his body. He was a rugby player. He was second in the state in wrestling. He was a cage fighter. He was a rough guy. And he had bruises all over his body. He had 2 bumps on his head, and one of his signature moves was the headbutt in rugby. So he had these bumps. His hands were filled with bruises. His neck had the scratches where his nails were trying to get under the wire. So we saw all this and we thought, well, right there's proof. But it wasn't until we got into his apartment in Singapore and we were looking for any sort of clue as to what happened. And I found this little, what I thought was a Mac speaker. And I threw it in the bag. We were taking small things home with us back to the United States. And when we got home, my husband realized that this little Mac speaker was an external hard drive. And my son had backed up all of his work files on this hard drive.
Oh, wow.
So we had it flown to California to a forensic expert, a computer forensic expert, who said, don't open any files, don't compromise anything. He opened it up, and what he found was that my son's computer had been accessed after his death, and what they accessed was the file about a Chinese company called Huawei, which is the largest telecommunications company in the world, and it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh my gosh.
And so we didn't even know what Huawei was, but 60 Minutes had a special on that week showing that they were stealing our technology. And so that's how we learned what this company was that my son would not transfer this technology to. So we started begging people to help us, and we were getting nowhere. Finally, we had an investigative reporter that we showed all the evidence to, and he started really investigating. And after about a year of working with him, he sold our story to the Financial Times. They wrote a big 7-page write-up in their magazine. We were the front page cover, called Death in Singapore, 7 pages, and they wrote everything about the technology, how vital the technology is, how powerful the technology, why it could not be transferred to China, radar jamming. You could hide airplanes with this technology.
Oh my gosh.
And so, and then they wrote about what happened to our son and all the evidence of his murder.
Wow.
So we were so excited. And from that point, we thought our government for sure now is going to take over and help us do a congressional investigation into the death of our son. We had 48 Hours call us. They asked us to
The
follow
TV
us.
show?
Yes.
Oh,
they followed us for a full year. They went to Washington, D.C. with us 3 times, Singapore twice. We're in Montana with us. Everywhere we went, we were being filmed, and they just documented what we were going through for a whole year.
Wow.
We went to Washington. We spoke to almost every elected official that we could, told our story. And it wasn't until we thought we were going to get help until one day we're sitting in Congressman Wolf's office.
Okay.
He's from Virginia. We were in Washington, D.C. in his office.
Okay.
Really good guy.
Yeah.
And he looked at us and he said, "You're doing the right thing, but you're not going to get anywhere." And we were shocked. He had the FBI meet with us and all kinds of stuff, but he said, Huawei owns a law firm on every corner in Washington, D.C., and they have influenced several of our elected officials.
Oh my gosh.
And so we realized at that point.
Did you feel defeated or?
No. I said, they don't know who they're messing with.
Okay.
That's what I said. I said, no, I'm not stopping. I'm going to fight. And he said, good, but basically, good luck dealing with our country. So I kept fighting. I kept meeting with people. Max Baucus, who was a senator at the time, he was the third most powerful senator in the United States, a Democrat, because this is a nonpartisan issue. This is an American hero that gave his life for our country.
Yes.
Max Baucus was helping us, and he was even going to fly to Singapore with us, until one day I get a phone call from his legislative assistant saying they can't help anymore. And I asked why. I said, I have a whole bunch of things I need you to do. Why? And she just gave me some lame reason. And it was that afternoon I heard on the radio that Max Baucus had been asked to become the ambassador to China. So, Bert, every single thing that we have done got shut down from the highest level. Vice President Joe Biden at the time was hand-delivered a 20-page document about what happened to our son with all the proof of his murder. Hand-delivered.
Okay. So he had to have read it. Well, I guess he didn't have to.
I don't know if he read it or not because we never heard from him. So once I realized that I fought and I fought and I fought, we fought, my husband Rick and I fought and we fought and we fought, and I realized no one is going to help us. I wrote this book. I don't know if it's called Hard Drive, A Family's Fight Against Three Countries. And what I did is I documented our story. It reads like a John Grisham novel. It's really good because it's such an amazing story.
Yeah.
But I name names. Comer, Mueller, Biden. They're all in this book.
Okay.
And I should be sued many times over, but I'm not because I told the truth and I backed it with facts.
Oh, amen.
And so it's a God story because God gave us so much. I call us dumb donkeys. We just follow the carrot, and God kind of led us through this whole thing. And I think this book is a tribute to my son. It's a tribute to our living God who gave us the intelligence to do something way beyond what we could. So
what was your son's name?
Shane Truman Todd.
Shane Truman Todd.
Shane Truman Todd.
That's the name that everyone needs to know then. And I want to look more into this story. I'm on the verge of tears listening to this. I am so sorry to hear this. And I can't stand that we have a government right now that we can't turn to when we need their help, their own government. It's not the way it should be.
Right.
And if you're running for Congress, we need to get you in there because that's the whole point. Get people in that will listen and will have solutions to the problems of the people.
Right.
That's supposed to be our voice, the people that we can turn to.
Yep.
And when we have our own congressmen, as good as they may be, saying, sorry, there's nothing you can do, then where's any hope in this country?
Well, you say as good as they can be, but I will submit to you that there's, on both sides, Democratic and Republican, they have been bought by the Chinese Communist Party, and they are working for the Chinese Communist Party. And I speak on national security now. I speak all over, anywhere anybody will let me, to tell what the Chinese Communist Party is doing. They have a 100-year plan to take over the world. They are taking over our ports. They're taking over our universities. They're taking over our internet. They're taking over everything. The One Belt, One Road. They're taking over infrastructures. Yeah. So we can't buy and sell.
Yeah.
So if we don't understand as Americans what is happening and how our officials are being bought, and our universities, they're stealing our technologies. They're using our brightest minds. If we don't understand that, we can't stop it.
That's right.
So that is why I'm running, because I believe that God has called me for such a time as this. And this story won't be in vain. My son's death will not be in vain.
No.
And I love our country.
Oh, God bless you. Well, is there any chance for there an investigation to be opened up in this? Is this I don't want to say in, but is this the book kind of the last resort what you went to? What's going on with that case?
No, so we have been in 3 movie deals for this book that have been shut down.
Wow.
There's been lives threatened.
Oh my gosh.
And people quit. But I'm not going to quit, and I'm not afraid. And when I am a U.S. Congressman, and I use the term men because I don't believe in this gender stuff. I think it's a neutral term.
Amen.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into all that.
Yeah.
When I'm a congressman, I will open up a U.S. congressional investigation into the death of my son. But I'll also listen to other constituents that aren't listened to. I will fight for people. I will fight for justice. I will fight for righteousness, and I will fight for our Constitution.
Oh, well, we need you. And any way that I can support you, I'm there. Liberty Report's there. Mike Pompeo, he'll share this to Trump and to everyone else.
Thank
and
you.
we need to make sure that we get you in office.
Thank you.
And people like you in office locally,
Thank you.
everywhere. Because that's the only way we have a country.
Yep.
If we don't win our states back, then our country's gone.
I agree. And if we don't get our elections fixed,
That's right.
we don't have a country.
Because you running is good, but if it's rigged
Yes.
and we don't have 2020 fixed, then it doesn't matter who runs for
100%,
office.
100%.
Yeah.
I will fight for that as well.
Hey, man. Well, we're in Arizona, and we're down there at the
man,
Capitol almost every single day.
You're doing the greater work. That's good.
We're making our voices heard. Attorney General Mark Brnovich, we ain't stopping until you come down and, do what's right, brother. Do what's right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to follow up with you. I mean, I've been in chills the whole entire time listening to this.
Thank you.
I feel like I have so many questions. I'm almost in shock right now, though. And I'm just so heartbroken that happened, just trying to put myself as a mother. I'm a father, and I have children. I can imagine that. He was let you know before if anything happens to me. He was giving you the signals,
Yeah.
And it's just, oh my gosh, I'm going to be thinking about this nightly, praying for you and for your family. When did this happen?
This was in 2012, June of 2012.
Wow.
So
That's when my son was born. So about 9 years?
it'll be 10 years this June.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Well, if I'm sure it feels like yesterday. I lost my dad in 2005, and his voice is in my head like it was yesterday.
But can I end with a great story?
Please.
That God did for me?
Yes.
So 3 months after my son's death, up until that point, I probably only slept 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I couldn't sleep. I was so tormented thinking about him and the wounds all over his body and wondering, did he call my name? Was he in a lot of pain? What did they do to him? And so we were at a pastor's retreat, and in the middle of the night, I had a vision. I've never had a vision like this before, and it was more real than you are right now, more real than anything in this room. It was the most real thing that's ever happened to me. Okay. And I'm cooking in my kitchen in Southern California, and my kids, because I have 4 boys, I'm always cooking. And so from the outside door, in walks my son Shane in this vision, and I knew he was dead. He'd already died. And he looked so glorious and so handsome. Here's a picture of him on the back. He's a very handsome young man.
I'll show it on the screen.
Yeah. But he looked the same. He had a T-shirt and shorts on, which he always did. But his face was just completely at peace and absolutely glowing. And I said, Shane, is that you? And he goes, it's me, Mom. And I said, no, Shane, is it really you? And he goes, Mom, it's really me. And I ran to him, and he put his huge rugby arms around me, and I just kissed the circumference of his face, and I could smell his breath, and I could feel his beard, and I could just feel his arms, and I was in heaven. And then somebody walked through the door, and he was gone. But what God did for me with that vision is I never again worried about how he died. I never again was tormented about the torture. I always remember him with that glorified face, and I know he is with Jesus.
Yes.
And I will say, I would rather have him in heaven having done the right thing than here on earth working for evil. Because if he had done that one thing, he would have sold his soul to the Chinese Communist Party, to the enemy, to Satan. And we would have lost him anyway.
Well, he is a hero. And you know what? Shane Todd's not going to be forgotten. I'm so glad to have met you. Thank you, Lord, for bringing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is good. I want to look more into this. I know this is my first time hearing this, but I'm on a mission now too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
sharing
much.
that.
Can I share my website?
Well, please share your social media, your website. How can we donate?
Thank you.
Be like I'm telling everyone, stop drinking coffee for a week, get a little healthier for a week, and let's help out someone.
Well, I would hate to have anybody stop drinking coffee. I don't want to torture anybody but something else.
Yeah,
McDonald's.
Oh, McDonald's.
Yeah.
McDonald's
But
coffee.
Coffee is
Okay.
important. So my website is Mary Todd. So MaryTodd. The word for FORMT, which stands for Montana, but it also stands for MaryTodd.com. So MaryTodd4MT.com. And then if anybody would like to email me, I would love to hear from you. If you have a story that you want to share, if you've lost a child and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from people. My email is mary@marytodd4mt.com. And I am running against Ryan Zinke, who has deep state money, and I do need help.
Yes. Well, we can't allow deep state money to get into office.
Right.
So let's help the right person get into office. If you live in Montana, this is the right one.
Thank you.
Liberty Report is interviewing the right candidates, and you're the right candidates. The reason why, because God's bringing them to Liberty Report, and that's how I know. God bless you in your fight. I'm going to make sure that all your websites and your links get put on the page. Your book, is there a way people can buy your book?
Yes, it's on Amazon, and they can get it on Amazon.
Awesome.
So.
Well, the link's going to be below for the book. All the links are going to be below that she just gave out. And please go support. This is how we win our country back. It starts locally. This is how we do it.
This is it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you know what? We'd love to have you back on the show in the future.
I'd love to come back.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, everyone. And thanks for your support. We appreciate you. And thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry for what you went through, but it's a strong testament of how strong you are to keep pushing through.
Yep.
You have a strong soul, and
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.